the sophisticate and the simpleton. Once upon a time, there was a man named Andrew who was very sophisticated. He lived in a big mansion and wore fancy clothes. He spent his days reading books and talking to other smart people, and he liked to show off how much he knew. One day, as Andrew was walking through the town square, he saw a man named Peter who was very simple. Peter was singing and dancing, and he looked happy and carefree, but Andrew thought he looked foolish. "Look at that man," Andrew said to his friend. "He has no education, no culture, no sense of refinement. He's just a simpleton." His friend nodded in agreement, and they walked away, shaking their heads. But Peter didn't care what Andrew thought. He kept on singing and dancing, and he felt happy and free. Years went by, and Andrew's life changed. He lost all his money in his big mansion, and he had nowhere to go. He was walking through the town, hungry and tired, when he saw Peter sitting by a fire, cooking a pot of beans. Andrew said, "It's me, Andrew. Do you remember me?" Peter smiled and welcomed Andrew to sit by the fire. He gave him some beans to eat and a blanket to keep warm. Andrew was grateful. As they sat by the fire, Andrew started to feel comfortable with Peter. He realized that Peter was not just a simpleton. He was kind and wise in his own way. He had a deep sense of peace and contentment, even though he didn't have much. "Peter," Andrew said, "how do you stay so happy? You don't have much, but you seem content." Peter smiled. "I have everything I need," he said. "I have food to eat, a fire to keep warm, and the sky above me. And I have my songs and my dances. They make me feel alive." Andrew was amazed. He had never thought about life like that before. He realized that he had been so focused on what he didn't have, money, status, education, that he had forgotten about what he did have. As the night went on, Peter shared more of his wisdom with Andrew. He talked about the beauty of nature, the importance of kindness, and the power of love. Andrew listened carefully, and he felt something changing inside him. When it was time to go to bed, Peter gave Andrew a blanket to sleep on. As Andrew lay down, he felt a sense of peace that he hadn't felt in a long time. He realized that he had been chasing after the wrong things in life. Next morning, Andrew said goodbye to Peter and set out on his journey. But he didn't feel the same way he had before. He felt lighter, happier, and more hopeful. As he walked, he realized that Peter had taught him something very important. You don't need to be sophisticated or educated to be happy. You just need to be grateful for what you have. When Andrew returned to his old life, he felt different. He didn't care as much about impressing people or showing off how much he knew. He started to see the beauty in simple things, like a warm fire, a good meal, or a kind word. And he never forgot about Peter. He knew that Peter had taught him a lesson that he would carry with him for the rest of his life. Years went by, and Andrew became a wise and respected man in his own right. He lived a simple life, but he was content. And he always remembered the lesson that Peter had taught him, to be grateful for what he had and to find joy in the simple things in life. One day, as Andrew was sitting by a fire, cooking a pot of beans, he saw a young man walking through the town. The young man was dressed in fancy clothes and looked very sophisticated. "Excuse me, sir." The young man said, "Can you tell me where I can find a good restaurant? I'm looking for something fancy to eat." Andrew smiled. "I'm sorry, young man," he said, "but we don't have any fancy restaurants here. But I can give you some beans to eat, if you'd like." The young man looked surprised. "Beans," he said. "I don't want beans. I want something special." Andrew smiled again. "Trust me, young man," he said. "Sometimes the simple things in life are the most special of all." The young man looked at Andrew for a moment, and then he smiled. "Thank you, sir," he said. "I think I will have some beans after all." And as they sat by the fire eating their beans, Andrew and the young man talked about life and love and the beauty of the world around them. And the young man realized that he had been searching for something that he already had, a simple life filled with love and joy. The end.